Do you miss Krieg's Bloodsplosion? Do you miss seeing an enemy there, and then after a sea of explosives, them being not there? Do you like never having to reload ever? How about melting bosses on the same playing field as Flak? How about never getting close to dying in the slightest? Well then, ladies and gentlemen, have I got a build for you. Hi ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Borderlands 3. Today, if you do want to participate in utter bloody mayhem with explosions and just honestly a mess, but like a awesome mess, like a destructive mess going on around you, you want to regenerate your ammunition constantly. I probably already did this stupid bit. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about the build that a lot of people have actually kind of stumbled upon. I was actually one of those people that stumbled upon it too, but I'm super slow when it comes to making videos. If there's anything I want you guys to take away from this video is please give a look at this specific class mod in combination with the Hex and this shield. This allows MOZE to actually do pretty decent damage and not just be this glorified splash damage queen, but not able to actually deal any more damage, you know? Or even if you're doing good damage, this can add way more damage because of the systems that we have in play. I did see a lot of people actually mess around with this, basically having an endless clip, but the only reason I wouldn't really say go for that one, not that it's bad, it's just that I never really feel like MOZE lacks in the splash damage department. I always find the thing that she does lack in is getting a little bit more damage to where she can actually melt bosses roughly around the same efficiency, if not a little bit less than Flak. Which makes sense because Flak's a glass cannon and all that. Now, the good news is that unlike Flak, who achieves damage but sacrifices survivability, MOZE gets both, and then some, so that's fun. Okay, how to tackle this so that it's not confusing but also kind of makes sense. Okay, well, what we're basically doing with this build is, I kind of mentioned it, we are regenerating our ammunition constantly, we are eviscerating things because we are making use of our amp damage on our shield, and we're never dying because we're basically leeching health from everybody and just never dying. I haven't died once. This is against bosses, this is against horde mode, this is against all these people. So I guess it's best to start with the thing that gives us lifeblood in general, which is called the Hex. MOZE's skill tree is very entwined with dealing splash damage, and every time she deals splash damage, she gets various buffs. This grenade is arguably, if not 100% definitively, the best grenade in the game. The reason why is because it aggressively tracks. Think of the Stormfront, except not hindered by having to be stuck to the ground and having 3 elements that it can also come in. All those elements really being nice to MOZE. Radiation, cryo, and electricity, radiation being probably the best. Okay, so let's build off that grenade. Why is that grenade so good and how can we make it better? Well, we can make it better with this one, which basically gives us endless grenades because it says anytime MOZE deals splash damage, she has a chance of proccing ammo regeneration into her current magazine and grenades. Now, this is kind of bad if you have a slow attacking grenade or weapon, but the Hex is just constantly firing. It may not do the most damage, but it's constantly proccing that splash damage effect, constantly regenerating ammo back to your magazine, basically giving you unlimited ammo, but we'll get back to that. Anyways, also refunding grenades. I've never dropped below 10 grenades, ever. It's amazing. Now we want to amplify our grenade's distance so that it's better tagging and regenerating our ammunition. Awesome. Now we also want to give our grenade the ability to critical hit, which gives it more damage and is just amazing. Also, this synchronizes with this thing over here, which says whenever MOZE gets a critical hit, she deals bonus incendiary damage. Amazing. So whenever you get a critical with our grenade, boom, that person's now on fire. And if we drop down here, whenever MOZE deals splash damage, which is also that grenade, she deals bonus incendiary damage. So these are 3 things that synchronize really well within your grenade, but also just when you're dealing splash damage and things like that. Also with your guns, if you happen to get a critical there, it still counts. Cool. Kind of a building block for our grenades, but also our shield and class mod. We'll get to it. Anyways, whenever MOZE deals splash damage with her grenades, she regains health. Now it says 20% missing health per enemy. So if you have a bunch of enemies, you throw your grenade, you're going to get your entire health bar back. But if you have a grenade that, say, splits into 1, 2, 3, maybe 6 grenades in one throw, all of those grenades circling around one enemy, you're going to get max health that way too, let's say. and some more grenades, because why not? We also can throw our grenades and fight for your life, just kind of okay. Can't remember the last time I went down with this build, just because of what we're doing with it. But anyways, it's just there for safety. And lastly, because our grenades can crits, after MOZE scores a critical hit, she regenerates her ammunition for a few seconds. Now again, we're already regenerating our ammunition whenever we deal splash damage into our current magazine, and this is just giving us more of that. That is fantastic. And we have this, which is kind of a part of the grenade conundrum because of the whole critical and then you getting bonus incendiary damage. Well, this one gives Iron Bear and MOZE incendiary damage, which is amazing. That's kind of why we're there. But also it gives us a free shot on our 4th shot, which is nice, especially considering because we're regenerating, say, a rocket, it may not be able to get to 4 shots because it consumes 3 bullets per shot, but because we're regenerating, we'll get that free shot, which is nice. Just an extra rocket of death in the air. Perfect. Okay, so that's kind of having to do with why the grenade is so good, why we're basically never running out of ammunition. Awesome. Okay, so we basically never run out of bullets. Convenient. Awesome, but what happens if we die? Doesn't matter if we have a full magazine at that point. Cool, let's get into health and survivability thing, and never dying, and having so much ungodly shield. Okay, so there's this one, basically increasing MOZE's tankiness whenever she has a full shield. So her shield has a base resistance buff, which is amazing. Anyways, now again, I felt like this was enough. We have enough shield that you don't need to get this one, but I needed to move down the skill tree, so I got that one. Anyways, we also want this one. And because of the class mod I got, it also buffs this one greatly. This skill essentially just tanks your health to nothing and buffs your shields immensely. And it does stack on top of gear that we have. So we'll get into that when we're talking about gear. And that's kind of it. And that's all you really need because of a certain something. Now, the reason why we're not dropping down here and getting the ability for whenever we do a critical hit, we gain a shield recharge immediately, which is amazing considering our grenades crit, is because MOZE is not lacking in survivability at all. She is lacking in damage that she can deal. So let's get into that. Okay, so let's start with this. Why not? We get base gun damage 15%. Nice. And then there's this skill, which is a kill skill. Less good for killing bosses, but still pretty good, especially if you get it maxed out. This gives you 60% damage, gun damage specifically, and reduces your fire rate by a little bit. Now, the weapons that we're using don't feel this in the slightest. It's amazing. Now, this is a stackable skill. You need to kill 3 enemies to get the max stacks. That's 100% fine. We do that insanely fast. Anyways, and then there's this skill, which is also amazing. Because we have this, which tanked our health completely, and our relic, we are going to want to jump over here and get this. Basically, if MOZE has really, really low health, she gains this buff. If she has more health, she gets less of this buff. But because her health is basically stuck at 1, we get all this, which is amazing. Now, the reason why we didn't get more of this skill is because of a skill over here. And basically the math makes this one better, because it's a 20% chance, not that great, but it's a 20% chance that you do almost double damage of whatever you're doing, and that double damage is AoE oriented. So you're just dealing way more damage, especially considering we're buffing gun damage specifically in a lot of MOZE's skills. Dogs were barking at something. Sorry. Okay, back to what we're doing. And the only skill that we really didn't talk about, unless I'm missing something, is this skill right here. The only reason why we have this is because basically Iron Bear becomes redundant if you don't have it. This kind of gives him some sort of use of like, kind of like a Krieg mode when you're really low health, getting your Iron Bear mech and just getting out of there, because you actually can move very quickly in your Iron Bear if you just smash X. Basically, it has like a little Titanfall thrust. But yes, 1 point for a little bit of additional survivability, which I've never needed, but you know, just in case they give us a UVHM 5 or something. Now, as you can see, MOZE has some damage or gun damage buffing abilities, but nothing insane, which is why a lot of people that I actually seen videos of MOZE, because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything when making this video, is a lot of people were actually using this one. I think it's fine. It's an amazing build, and it's great if you wanted to spam bullets forever, but I will say that I don't feel like MOZE lacks regeneration of ammunition nor splash damage. I feel like these are not problems she has. The problem she has is not being able to deal enough damage. Also, she can die at times. So why not kill 2 birds with 1 stone with this weirdo configurations? Jesus, my dogs keep barking at things. I'm gonna get stabbed in the back. just making this video. Ah, shit, it's Robert or something. Okay, so let's reset. This is the Deathless Relic. It's something that I'm sure you guys have seen around. Basically, this gives MOZE 1 health, which we already have, basically, because of that other skill that we have. The one that reduces our health but gains shield capacity, which is great. So this does nothing to us negative. It only does positive things, except for 1 negative. But anyways, it gives us 100 more shield capacity. This is amazing. And shield recharge rate, whatever. And a ton of recharge delay. That's not great. but it's fine because it doesn't affect us at all. The only thing I will say is that I am on the lookout for one that has a better prefix. So this one says imbues slide with radiation. I don't care. I would love to get the frost slide that gives you crazy mobility. That's the one that would be perfect, but of course, things in this world aren't perfect. So we're just gonna have to make do with what we have until we can, of course, attain better. Also, the passive buffs are just kind of trash. We don't use action skill at all. Shield recharge delay doesn't matter. Irradiation chance, that may be okay actually, but it doesn't work for us because we don't have the hex that is irradiation based. Anyway, so why do we use the Honor Guard Bloodletter class mod? Why? Well, if we read the special text, it says, if MOZE would be healed, she gains shield instead. If she would regenerate health, she will gain shield regeneration instead as well. So, that ability all the way back here that we gotten is just kind of there, becomes incredibly useful. So we restore 20% of our base health. This has not just given me all my health back, especially using the Helix. But now we regain a ton of shield, and because this is so vicious in its health steal in the application that we have it, we get our shield back instantly. Max shield. Now, why would we want max shield? Again, like I said, MOZE struggles with damage output, not necessarily being able to spread out damage or even staying alive. Well, because of this shield, the rerouter, the kind of nerfed B that really works with MOZE. Essentially it says, when fully charged, the next shot drains 50% of your shield, which is a lot, but the amp shot deals 120 base damage, or bonus damage, sorry, and returns that damage as health. And what happens when we get health? It gets converted to our shield. So this is a self-accomplishing prophecy. It's a loop. It's amazing. But it gets kind of fucked up every now and again, so that's why we have this as well, just to help. But that is how we deal bonus damage on top of what we're doing, which I actually haven't heard a lot of people talk about that kind of weird synchronization, because it's so good. And makes MOZE just kind of do okay against bosses to, oh my god, we're eviscerating them. Hell yeah. Okay, so that's kind of the 3 combo right there that really works together, giving us more shield. We're regenerating our shield at a crazy rate because of that leech grenade. And every time we get max shields, which we're doing every second, it's giving us amp damage on top of amp damage on top of amp damage. And the shield is very high capacity because it's taking away 50% of your shield every time you shoot that amp shot, which is fine because we have just so much shield to go around. Half of our shield is still like 3 normal people's shields. Anyways, let us talk about the hex. Okay, so this is the big crux of the build. You're probably going to be able to get the shield, you're probably going to be able to get the class mod and the relic, but the hex is going to be the golden goose that's going to be a bit of a struggle. Now, you can just use the Stormfront, but it's nowhere near the same strength as the hex. The Stormfront is good, the hex is godly. It's on a whole nother level. I will say though, before I probably should have said this at the beginning, I don't think MOZE is broken. MOZE is the byproduct of what is a smart and well thought out build. Class, meaning her skills play into themselves beautifully to the point where you are rewarded if you're able to see how they bleed into each other. That's one of the things that really bothers me, is I'm worried that they're going to see this character and think, oh, she's broken, but no, she is the definition of not broken. She works so well within her own kit. That is why it works. Anyways, moving on. The Hex. So again, the Hex is amazing because it is a grenade that tracks aggressively. So we throw the Hex, it's this little ball that will aggressively heat seek an enemy, and it will tether whatever element it's dealing to that enemy and just eviscerate them. Also, it happens to stay up for a long time. Now, this is the Hex that you don't want. It's called the Hex, that's it. You don't want that. There is 3 types of hexes that you can get. I don't have it on me, but I promise it exists. It's called the Cloning Hex. Now, this is pretty good because when you throw 1 grenade, it turns into 2, which is amazing. But the Hex that's better than that one is called the Merv Hex, which when you throw 1 grenade, it splits into 3 Mervs, which deal the same damage and the same amount of crazy ferocity. Awesome. But, ladies and gentlemen, there is a golden goose called the Reoccurring Hex, which has both of these, which means you fire 6 grenades in 1 throw, which means you regenerate ammunition to a crazy extent. So again, you throw 2 cloning grenades, and those 2 cloning grenades split into 3 Mervs, which it adds up to 6, which is amazing. Also, they home in aggressively. Another thing that I will mention, that again, this is not the perfect Hex that I could possibly get. The Hex can come in 3 elements: cryo, shock, and radiation. Now, I believe that radiation and shock would be the best. If not, radiation, I think, being the undoubtable best. Because radiation is way more aggressive with the damage ticks as well as its splash damage, which we're buffing anyway. We don't really get much from cryo. Also, we don't need to like slow down an enemy and get headshots because we're not really going for headshots. We're just littering the ground with a ton of explosives, making everything die in a couple seconds. So that's what's happening there. Yeah. Now you might be saying, well, Grin, what happens if I get just the hex and not the better equivalents? You're still fine, but there is some problems. If you only get the base hex like this one, you're gonna be fine with using the combo where you're amping up your shield to the max point and healing in that way. You're fine. But the ammo regeneration is lacking. So if you have just a basic hex that's just one grenade life stealing, you're gonna have enough survivability, but you're not gonna have enough procs going on to where you're gonna be regenerating your ammunition as quick. So that is the catalyst. If you have a MIRV, then you're good. In fact, I think if you have a cloning and you just keep remembering to spam out a couple of grenades, because they do last a long time, then you'll be good. All right, so real quick here, let's get into the guns that you can be using. Now, there's a lot of guns that you can be using, and they're generally fine. I've seen some people suggest where is it? This one right here, the Torg laser gun. The reason why I don't use it is because there's a distance drop off that I don't like. So when you're fighting bosses that are a little bit far away, your beam will just be gone, and I don't like that. I want something that is consistently okay. This is better, I think, than my Ogre, but my Ogre is unlimited range. And if I show you guys right here, if we go here, I can shoot this right here, and it does a lot of splash damage and all that stuff, but the range drop-off is a problem for me. But again, if you happen to have just this is a good replacement. But again, I do prefer my Ogre, not only because it shoots so ungodly fast and has a crazy magazine to where I can just litter everyone with explosives and keep regenerating my health and all those things. Or not regenerating my health, regenerating my ammunition. Also, I like that like direct feedback where, again, with the Torg one, I sometimes feel like I'm doing something and then finally it procs and kills the guy. So yeah, I like that direct feedback, which the Ogre does give you. But I will say that I think the best weapon for this build undoubtedly is the Freeman, which is amazing. If you guys have not used it, it's actually a pretty, well, at least for me, it was an easy farm. It may be a little bit challenging to get this to drop. I may make a video showing you guys what it does, but basically it's that. It's a tracing rocket that's amazing, and you can spam the ever-living shit out of it. So you're just this constant sea of explosives, which is amazing, especially considering we're regenerating our ammunition, and we regenerate 6 bullets. When you have like a rocket launcher that shoots fast and only has 2 bullets, you're starting to ride that line of regeneration happening quick enough. But yeah, no, the Freeman is absolutely one of the best just base weapons for killing bosses, for killing anything. Now, the Flacker is what everyone talks about, and I think it's good. It's really good, actually, but I don't like the fact that it's just really weird. It's like it takes a long time to detonate, but also it kills the shit out of you. So that's kind of where I'm in the middle about it. In fact, a lot of the time I actually like to use the Roadhog, which is this one, which is basically like an automatic Torg shotgun, which just wrecks. Although I will put a caveat on this one: do not use this combo if you do not have a very, very good hex, because it will eat through ammo, your magazine so fast. But if you have a good enough hex that's proccing enough splash damage, you'll be regenerating ammo enough. But if you have just one hex, probably not. Now, I will say that the Hive is amazing with this build, but what is better for killing bosses, and I find it's the best for killing bosses, is this, because it really makes use of our shield, our amp damage, because basically it fires out a missile that spews out other missiles, and all those missiles do have amp damage applied to them, whereas I don't think the bee does. The Hive, or whatever it's called, I think it's called the Hive, right? Yeah, Hive. The Hive doesn't do that, I don't think. But the Hive is amazing in every other regard, so that's why I have it equipped, is if there's any enemies flying around, the Hive is a similar beast, except instead of a projectile, it's just an orb that will spew out other rockets, which again is amazing for MOZE. Also, there was no sound that whole time. Also, I really hope I panned over to some gameplay at given moments, just because I don't know, I find it terribly boring for when you're just like me rambling in a skill tree. So hopefully I can show you, like, oh, just in case you forgot, we're gonna be killing the world. Okay, it's gonna be great. Well, that sounds a bit fucked, but you know what I'm saying. Alright, I need to step in for just a couple of seconds. Some stuff I forgot to mention while I try to find out a way to represent and showcase this build, even though we've been doing that the entire time. Anyways, essentially, guys, one of the things I wanted to point out is that this is going to be an ongoing series, so there is most likely a part 1 or a part 2 on the end of the title of this video, meaning if there's any sort of thing that I find out that is so much better, or maybe they update this and they've nerfed MOZE to shit, but there's still some way to give her some power, I will of course update the build and do it that way. Maybe eventually eventually the GIMP save editor comes out, and that's refined, and I can upload a save file for you guys, giving you guys the best weapons if I have those available. I'll also probably make a video on my thoughts on the hex in terms of how to get it to drop. There's no real way, but I still just want to ramble about it just in case anyone wants to hear my findings and how I got it to kind of drop after trying to farm for a world drop. Anyways, I also probably will put something in the description if I ever do make a Freeman Trace rocket launcher guide in the description down below. If I forget to do that, please remind me. I will try to get on that as soon as possible. But ladies and gentlemen, let my ramblings take hold and just watch me kill things, except this time with, of course, my crazy ramblings. Okay, next thing. I will say, the one thing that does mess with this build a slight bit is when you're dealing with those purple cultist, Children of the Vault people, I forget what they're called. It's really weird because sometimes they get into like an invulnerability stage, but they keep firing at you because they bug out and they don't like chant, but instead they're chanting, but they're throwing damage at you, which can be messed up because you need that lifesteal effect to proc. I haven't died from it. I usually just back off and shoot some ads that are always around them until their weird glitchiness is gone. Also, I can't watch this, even though I love Torg's voice and his insanity. It's stopping me from speaking and explaining the build. Even though I could just be showing the gameplay right now because I've already done all this. I've already showed you guys what's going on, how it works. I really don't use Iron Bear. I know some people try to. I just find it's a waste of time, especially entering it into it and then turning it off. It seems like just a colossal waste of time. But yeah. I've seen a bunch of people talk about MOZE, and again, I always feel like people go more into splash damage. In fact, honorable mentions. I did watch a video from Jadolts who was talking about how this weapon is amazing, and it is. I just don't have the variant of it, but this is also a fantastic weapon to interchange with MOZE. But again, I don't find that MOZE struggles from splash damage at all. I think she does that more like best than anybody, but I just don't think she deals enough damage when it comes to bosses and the like, whereas if you have this shield, she can absolutely just tear through bosses. That's one of the things that also people have pointed out, is that it is visually a lot, which is also why I like the Ogre, is because the Ogre you can be like a mile away and still be hitting things, just because it's just a sea of fire rate, whereas with the Torg gun, I always feel like I have to get a little bit closer, and that's when you start being blinded by the light, you know? But again, as you guys can see our shield is constantly being procced up despite look at our shield. That's my favorite thing. It's when a build is coming together, but it's basically constantly giving us that amp shot. And also, it's just a big shield, so even if you're like really worried about dying, because it cuts your shield in half to 50, it is just bigger in general, the base shield capacity. So that's why. Also, with these flying enemies, you can use this gun. It's pretty good, but I always like to use the B because it's just a bit frustrating to hit them, because they're just so wily. But you can also throw grenades and they'll get them too. And again, we're regenerating ammunition because every time our grenades touch an enemy, that's splash damage, and that splash damage is getting returned to us as grenade ammunition and, of course, solid rifle ammunition. But this is honestly like where you need to be if you're ever like, oh, I'm not killing things enough. Switch to the Freeman, obliterate the entire planet. It's a bunch of wildness. And again, this build is still not perfected for me. I still need to get the class mod or the relic that gives me the sliding ability, or anything else, honestly. I just don't like the weird, like, when you slide, you deal corrosive, and I'm like, I don't care. It does nothing for me, actually. But I do also want the radiation equivalent, like a reoccurring hex with radiation. That would be monstrous. In fact, I could show you guys something kind of silly. Yeah, because again, I think you guys are getting the gist, and also I think I've been showing you guys gameplay of us doing this already, so you guys probably are sick of seeing this thing. Let us go to, I killed Trant a bunch, or Haunt, whatever his name is. I will say though, I think that's my only real gripe with like endgame, is that the fact that all of the bosses have an invincibility phase. It just seems lazy and just like, this is so not rewarding at all, the shittiness of just waiting around. Also, one of the things I did want to mention is in some of the gameplay that you're seeing in the background, the reason why we're doing like amazing at some point, like instantly killing someone, and then we're just kind of doing okay, is because of the mayhem modifiers. Sometimes they'll like half your bullet damage, and then other times they'll buff your grenade damage or buff your action skill, which kind of screws me over because we don't use our action skill really at all. So that's kind of the problem there. Also, yeah, this boss fight is just frustrating. Why did I pick this one? He's such a douche. He just walks a 1,000 miles away, and it's just the worst. But he does spawn some enemies, so we can keep regenerating our ammunition, which is just a good bit of fun. And again, the flacker is amazing. I just think it's a bit, yeah, like it's fantastic. Like it rivals, it's a boss killing weapon for sure, or like a cultist weapon for sure. Like those purple people, you do great, but it is still frustrating because you can't see where you're shooting really. It's just kind of a mess. I'll try to show you guys the one thing I was talking about. To me, the boss killing weapon is this bazooka. It's this one right here. Then what are we dealing with? What's our mayhem modifiers? Yeah, see that? Yeah, oh my god, that's the worst one I've seen. 70% of bullet damage is decreased. So we're only dealing 30% right now, so that's why we're not instantly eviscerating him, so.
And 50 minus cryo damage. What the hell?
So we're gonna regenerate some ammunition with our grenades, perfect. We're gonna shoot this. We have also our amp damage going on, which is amazing. Also, we have just at a base level, 31,000 health. Yeah, see, that's what we're talking about. Even with the damage reduction, we're still chewing through that. Again, this is the weapon that just halves bosses because again, it's a missile that it splits into many missiles that all have that amp damage proccing, which is so good. And again, we're gonna want to keep getting that amp damage up, so we're gonna keep throwing our grenades, and that's gonna give us just an extra little bit of damage. Again, I think that's what MOZE suffers from. But the only problem with this rocket is you do need to be a little bit back, because if we just fire it, it just is a generic bazooka. But if we give it a bit, you can see that it'll start to spew out rockets, and that's where the damage is. And every single one of those has amp damage. I'll try to show you guys again. We do one of these. I think we had max thing there. We pause it, go into photo mode. Oh, I put a stupid thing on there to blur effect. Let's turn that out. There we go. So yeah, as you guys can see, each one of those has amp damage, so that's why it's really good. And again, it's not broken because that makes sense. That's something that is working in tangent. It's just really working together. And yeah, I definitely think that MOZE should be the benchmark for what Gearbox looks at in terms of power and balance. Because again, that's what it should be, is every skill playing into itself really in a smart and productive way. What are we doing? Corrosive, that's kind of cool. Ooh, I don't have this. COV hammer. Okay, well, I don't really want it, but okay. Yeah, I probably was showing you guys gameplay the whole time when I was talking, so I don't think we need to do too much gameplay showcase. But yeah, we eviscerate. This is my favorite build, by the way, because it's just perfect chaos. I will say I do agree with the idea that it is a bit much sometimes. Like just this, it's like if you have epilepsy, forgive me. You're probably already gone, honestly. I'm sorry. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's such a good time. It's just a chaotic build. It reminds me a lot of Krieg's build as well. His like Blaster Master kind of build where he just whipped unlimited grenades. Except for us, it's a little bit more crazy, and yeah, and even when you do get close to dying, you just switch over to the Freeman. You just shoot out a bunch of rockets. You can put them wherever you want. You can put them right here if you want. It's just amazing. I love the Freeman rocket. I talk shit about because it was one of the first legendaries that I got. It wasn't that great, but man, with this build, it just it comes together, especially with the shield thing. And again, that's something I want to hammer home because a lot of people have kind of touched upon the Helix, or the Hex, sorry, the Hex. Which makes me sad because no one did. And then I watched that J-Dolts video and he did, and I'm like, fucking, that guy's always so on the fucking cusp of everything. Anyways. But again, I haven't heard anyone mention the weird synchronarity between getting your shield constantly back and having a shield that gives you tons of amp damage, and also just has a ton of capacity because again, it's halving your shield every time you shoot. So it's trying to compensate for that a little bit, which is fine because we get tons of shield anyway. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Blaster Master MOZE build. Again, it's my favorite thing in the game thus far because it synchronizes so well within itself. And again, even though even I may say it's broken or like so overpowered at some points, it's not. To me, it's none of those things. It's just my way of saying this is so strong. But again, to me, it earns its strength because every skill feeds into itself and buffs that one thing, and that thing buffs that. And the result is you actually having just this monster, which to me should be the benchmark of all the characters that we have in the game. So I really hope they don't nerf the shit out of this because again, it just makes sense. But what do I know? Also, again, one of the better parts about this build as well is that you can dabble in whatever. You can use this, that's pretty good. You can use this, that's pretty good as well. Also, honorable mentions, I think this is wonderful as well. And the only problem I've ever had really is I need a good shock weapon because I find with certain enemies I just can't quite cut through their shield because cryo doesn't do that much, and I think shield is resistant to explosive like things. But yeah, that's which is great because you can get a electric version of the Hex. Again, I'm keeping my eye out for the radiation Hex. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Again, to me, the reason why this was such a special, like, fun character, she doesn't have the greatest personality. She's kind of just like a soldier. Anyway, yeah, she's fantastic because for me, I actually found out a lot of this stuff just by happen chance. Like, I happened to get the hex, I threw it, and I realized, holy shit, I'm regenerating all my ammunition. And I just kind of stumbled upon that, and then I stumbled upon the whole shield thing, and to me, it just kind of feels real special, and I hope you guys use it and see the power and the synchronization and all of it, and just have a blast. Thank you so much for your time. As always, subscribe button above me and 2 videos to my right. Thank you again, and goodbye.